the central bank digital currency. We've been talking about that for a long time here on the channel. This is something that the central banks of the world have started to adopt. Now, on the community page, we've got a map showing you, you might have to scroll down a few posts, but we have showing you the countries and where they are in their adoption cycle of the CBDC. Now, a lot of people in media and government are saying, oh, we're not even decided over here in the United States whether or not we're going to do that. That's a lie. And I'll demonstrate to you why that's a lie in a moment. All right. This is an NBC article. NBC, in my mind, stands for nothing but coonery. They are not to be trusted. So here is a piece where state media is trying to indict 2 candidates for president. This is election interference. This is Soviet Pravda, all right, written in English. DeSantis and RFK Jr. misconstrue Fed's digital plans in warning of government overreach. Now, first of all, NBC, are you for real? The government has never overreached. This is something that just is an anathema. Come on. Florida's GOP governor and anti-vaccine activist. Oh, Florida's GOP governor and the anti-vaccine activist. That's how they frame RFK Jr. Both seen as potential 2024 presidential candidates, mischaracterized 2 Federal Reserve proposals efforts to restrict American purchases. Now, they're saying they see them as being candidates because this was written before RFK officially declared. As the Federal Reserve looks to modernize banking, 2 potential 2024 presidential candidates have accused the central bank of seeking to use a proposed digital dollar to control Americans' finances, although Fed officials have committed to no such plans. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis alleged last weekend that a Fed-made digital dollar, U.S. digital dollar, would let the government block transactions like buying a rifle or filling up with too much gas. Ron DeSantis is correct. We'll show you that in a moment. He added, Pennsylvania conference, quote, they're going to try to impose an ESG agenda, unquote, referring to private sector policy and environmental, social, and governance principles, while conservative lawmakers across the country have been pushing to curb them. The government establishing ESG principles inside the military. We just did the report on, it was a live stream. We got it up on the channel. It might have been a live stream. I don't know. It's on the channel. But in any event, the military has promoted a major to a cyber command. Major is an open transsexual and has admitted to having thoughts of self-harm. Now, is this the type of person that should be in command of personnel? Or is this the type of person that should be getting some assistance for these thoughts that they're having? All right. I can assure you that years ago, if this was the case in the military, you would not be in command of anybody. All right. With that kind of issue going on. But this is the modern day military. Mind you, Russia and China are and Iran, they're not following these confusing practices that we are. So it is ceding the power of our financial freedom to a central bank, which does not have our interests at heart, DeSantis said. The Republican governor, who's been widely floated as a presidential candidate, rival to Donald Trump, has introduced legislation in Florida seeking to ban the use of any Fed-issued digital currency in the state. And we talked about that on a report that we did. He's calling for other states to do the same. But look, I don't know how that's supposed to work because Florida, if you can try to ban it, I don't know how you would ban a federal form of fiat currency, especially when people are coming into your state all the time. They may have it, want to use it. How's that going to work? And then people who leave your state to go visit another state that does have it, it's confusing. I don't think that legislation makes sense. Okay. I think that the way to fight this is in Congress, because they would have to make the ultimate decision as to whether or not the United States adopted a CBDC as our form of money, as our form of currency, rather. That's the way to go with that, is to start lobbying Congress heavily and to start exposing the true nature of a CBDC and the powers, the unprecedented powers it would give the government over what used to be your money, because you won't even own your money. And in that situation, that means the fruits of your physical or intellectual labor would not be your own. And that's slavery, ladies and gentlemen. It's a classic definition. So the Fed is readying its FedNow initiative, which aims to shorten the time it takes for banks to send funds to other banks. They are currently rolling that out now, people. You can think of FedNow as a PayPal between banks, instant processing. In the real estate industry, which we do have a business in that industry, it sometimes takes time to transfer money for different real estate transactions between buyer and seller. Okay. FedNow is going to eliminate that if the banks are using that system, which they all eventually will be. So just think of FedNow as a PayPal or a Zelle for banks right now. That's what it is. Let's get to JFK. JFK. I keep calling him JFK. RFK Jr. All right. DeSantis comments came within days of remarks by, here we go again, anti-vaccine activist Kennedy Jr., who tweeted that a Fed-issued currency would allow the government to surveil all our private financial affairs. And it would, because there would be a ledger that they would have access to. This is true. He goes on to say it would also enforce dollar limits on our transactions, which echoes what DeSantis is kind of saying, restricting where you can send money, and freeze your assets to limit your spending to approve vendors if you fail to comply with arbitrary dictates, i.e. vaccine mandates. Now, Saul Amrova, we did extensive reporting on her about a year and a half ago, I think. She was Joe Biden's nominee to become a comptroller of the currency, a position that would report up to the Treasury Secretary, in this case, Janet Yellen. Now, Amrova is clear about saying one of the things we could potentially do with a CBDC is if we needed to raise or lower interest, say we needed to raise interest rates, this is what she said. So the end goal of raising interest rates, of course, is to slow down the economy. She said with a programmable central bank digital currency, the Fed wouldn't need to do anything besides restrict the amount of money that the citizens could use. And to do that, you could just manipulate the ability to spend the CBDC. Now, going further, if you did that, corporations would love that, because if you're not increasing the interest rate, that means they don't have to incur additional costs to borrow. But you might pull up to a gas station and it might say, hey, Jack, that's, well, Joe Biden, he loves to say Jack. He's like straight, he's like out of a 70s blaxploitation film. Hey, Jack, you've already spent, $50 on gasoline this week. You can't get any more. That's where programmability comes in. And that is where that link comes in that I put up earlier. It's way up there, but I want you to copy that link because I want you to read this document for yourself. It should pop up here. And say, there we go. All right. So this is a document that actually is issued by the Federal Reserve. Okay. This isn't an article. This isn't, some think tank. This is the Fed. Okay. Now, I've read through this a couple of times already. And let's see here. On several occasions in this document, they talk about the fact that a CBDC should be programmable. This is the Fed talking. So when it's not MSNBC, it's plain old NBC. when they're saying that, oh, you know, these guys have it wrong, JFK and, you know, DeSantis, they have it wrong. This is not where this is going. Has NBC read the Fed's paper? The Fed says this is where it's going. Programmability. Programmability will give them the opportunity, and this is where you not owning your money comes in. Because I got a dollar bill around here somewhere. It's mine. Now, it's not a hill of beans, but I can decide to save it. I can decide to spend it. I can decide to invest it. All right. It's my choice. I did something in the world to generate that dollar, and it's mine. But with a program, it's not programmable. It's not dependent on the government saying, oh, you can or you cannot spend this here, there, or at this time. No. All right. So, guys, make sure, and in the name of this document, and again, I'm going to put this in the community page, so don't sweat it if you're not in a position to take this down right now. Money and payments, the US dollar in the age of digital transformation. I used to be a lobbyist. You all know that. And this is how the government gears up to doing something. They do a ton of research and they look into it and they write papers like this internally. And then you wake up one morning and it's done. Okay. FedNow is not a CBDC. That is true. However, it is the rail system on which a CBDC will sit because it is giving the users, banks at this point, instantaneous transferability. Instantaneous. Again, you've sent money via PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, or whatever. It's instantaneous. I sent some money through one of those apps to one of my nephews, and he was standing not far from me, and I hit send, and a second later, I heard his phone go ding. That's what FedNow is. But you need that because right now, when you make a transaction, it's instant, right? Whether it be by credit card or whether it be by cash, it's instant. So they want that capability for the CBDC, and now is the rail system upon which that sits. Let me catch up with some comments, guys. And then I'm going to show you another example of how the government of the United States of America is, they're saying one thing, but the mouthpiece, okay, Pravda, the propaganda arm, is saying another. Most people are not going. I'm one of these policy nerds because of my work in DC and my regulatory work before that. I read what the horse's mouth has to say, and I do read, you know, articles like this NBC article because I want to see how it's being couched to the greater public. Okay, but we got to learn to go to the horse's mouth because they're not shy about telling you exactly what they're doing. Catch up with some of the let's see, y'all. I saw one in here. Yeah, okay, here's the one I was looking at. Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans says we need to go back to the gold standard. Check out some of the videos. I know you've watched them because you commented on them. We do have videos on the channel where several states are moving in that direction. New Hampshire. I went to a farmer's market in New Hampshire and they were accepting silver. Okay. So I asked about it and they said, yeah, we do this all the time. We reprice it based on spot price twice a day. And if you like, you can bring your silver and exchange it for goods and, you know, goods here at the farmer's market. So you're starting to see an awakening of sorts. People saying, wait a minute, we just crossed the $32 trillion debt threshold. This is insane. Anybody with, you know, who came out of middle school and did fairly well, might have attended half the math classes. You know where this is going. Okay. And Marion backs it up. We should have never gone off of it. Hey, yeah. Okay. So 1971, Nixon, and here we are. Okay. We got a blank. We got a, from a standpoint of a central bank, we got the black card, the unlimited. Here we are. We just mishandle it. But we're in good company because every single fiat currency before us, go back to China, you know, Spain, the UK, no, none of us have known how to handle it. Let's see. Yeah, Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans. There are some detrimental effects of the gold standard. But at the very least, it would end our endless wars. That's true. And the other thing about the gold standard is this. You would have to have a multi-layered accounting system that reported to the people on a regular basis. I'm talking quarterly, because that's the problem we have in the paper market right now. All right. We've got a big question mark as to whether or not all these gold ETFs and all these gold funds, do they really have the gold? All right. And that is what always moves me away from, paper gold products. All right. So there we are. Let's see. Okay. All right. We'll catch up with some more in a minute. Let me do this. So, all right. So we've got the report. We're going to link to that in the community section. But then let's look at this. This lady, Lael Brainerd is her name. And you may not have heard a lot about her. Okay. You may not have heard a lot about Lael Brainerd, but she's serious. There was a lot of speculation that Lael Brainerd was going to be the Fed chair and take Powell's spot. Biden was going to appoint her this last go round when he had to, either reappoint Powell or bring in somebody new. There was a lot of speculation that Brainerd was going to get it. So that's kind of her pedigree. All right. That's how she's thought of. And I won't go into the details, but I think that at the end of the day, I think Brainerd was that who kind of backed off. I think that this woman is so savvy and intelligent and strategic that she really understands the value of being behind the curtain. Okay. I really think she's not ready to come out yet because she's got some rock solid initiatives that they aren't good for us, but that she wants to see implemented. One of those is central bank digital currency. So again, we go back to NBC. They're talking about, oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They don't even fear this. This is not even decided. But here we got, this is from last year. Actually, it's from 2021. Says she can't wrap her head around not having U.S. central bank digital currency. Federal Reserve governor, and that's her position right now. She's a Fed governor, all right, which is, there are many of these. There's only one chair, all right. They kind of, to me, it looks like that parliamentary system over in England, where you got a lot of ministers, but then you get the Powell as minister, Brainerd as, one of the ministers serving with him, but not the prime minister. Federal Reserve Governor Lael Brainerd on Friday laid out a range of reasons for urgency around the issue of developing a U.S. central bank digital currency, including the fact that, other countries such as China are moving ahead with their own. The dollar, this is a quote, the dollar is very dominant in international payments. And if you have the other major jurisdictions in the world with a digital currency, a CBDC offering, and the U.S. doesn't have one, I can't wrap my head around that. Brainerd told the Aspen Institute Economic Strategy Group. She went on to say that just doesn't sound like a sustainable future to me. This is coming from a woman who is a current sitting Fed governor and will probably end up being the next Fed chair. All right, so she's very forthright and coming out and telling you, yeah, we need a CBDC. And we'll go back to the paper where the Fed itself said this thing should be programmable. Fed officials are taking a deep dive into the digital payments universe, collecting public feedback on the potential cost and benefits, as well as design considerations, with a view to publishing a discussion paper early in September. Okay, so that was the discussion paper that we were looking at. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, in comments, described the analysis as a key step in accelerating the Fed's efforts to determine if it should issue its own CBDC. We're gone forward from that. She made these comments back in 2021. Now we got the paper. Okay. So here we are. So we see that the news media is going to try to kind of obfuscate. They're going to try to conceal what's going on here. All right. And they're going to try to lull people into a false sense of they're going to make this thing attractive. They're going to talk about they're going to do things like this because we've already started. It's going to make money more accessible. How in the hell is that going to happen? They're not going to be giving it away, but they're trying to create language that will appeal and fit in with this whole ESG, diversity, equity, and inclusion, garbage that the country is going through right now. They're trying to make it appeal to a crowd who is very susceptible to hearing that kind of messaging. Okay. So remember, this is America 2023. People do not just automatically start to critically think. They hear buzzwords. All right. So if you hear fairness, equity, inclusion, what you automatically then connect it, Pavlovian. Okay, it's a Pavlovian response. You automatically connect it to, I like sound of that. You go back to a caveman type thing, these people. Yes, let's do that. Forget all the other ramifications. Okay, so that's the messaging we're going to be seeing more of from the media. Guys, beware. This thing is going to be programmable, trackable as well. Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans, thank you so much for the super chat. Keynesian economics was that seduced so many government thinkers. Right. Could not agree more. The other thing, let's see. Let's hit Marion up. Let's see. Marion, the Aspen Institute, they were a fascinating group that changed a while ago. Yeah. I think a lot of these groups have been infiltrated to a fare thee well. I used to work with a guy when I was in DC. I forget his name. Good guy. He would, wherever he is today, I know he's having these same conversations with people that we're having today. Anyway, he and I were walking through the hall, going in opposite directions, and another colleague came up and he wanted to introduce us to someone that would be working with us. So he said, hey, this is Tyrone, this is so-and-so. And then the way he introduced the other guy that I was friends with, Peter, the way he introduced Peter was, and here's Peter. Peter was over at the State Department. He was still looking for McCarthy's subversives. And Peter got this serious look on his face, and he said, oh, they're there. And he walked off. Okay, so that guy was with it long ago. All right, guys. So that's what you can expect. Just beware of that. I want you all to understand that this CBDC thing is going to it's going to impact our liberty, financial and otherwise. Think back to 2020 if they had a CBDC. Remember, they were trying to set up the thing where Biden was entertaining restricting travel, and it was impossible to do because what are you going to do? There are not enough cops, there are not enough FBI agents, and every damn exit out of every enclave, town, hill, holler in the United States. You just can't, it's impractical. They quickly realize that. Then, okay, say I've got Maryland tags in Connecticut. So what? Okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to arrest me? Are you going to tell me to drive back to Maryland? So they quickly quashed it. But with a programmable, trackable CBDC, they could easily say, and this is done, by the way, in China. The technology is already there. China, if you cross score drops, they're able to restrict where you're able to spend money. So they'll give you a radius, might be like 5 miles. Okay, you live within this radius, you work within this radius. There are plenty of supermarkets and restaurants. You're not going to die. But outside that radius, your debit cards, your credit cards will not work. So you have effectively been confined into a 5-mile radius. You're not able to travel outside that, and use money. And in China, one might say, oh, well, my uncle will help me, or my kids. No, they won't, because if it's found out that they are, then that'll impact their social credit score. And that's coming to the United States, guys. That is why you have to acquire, all right? And a lot of those assets have to be outside of the financial system. Now, let me just give a quick plug here. And Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans can attest to this. We're doing some things over in the Officers Club. That's the members only section. Where we just did a members only video where we're talking about, it's a 4-part video where we're talking about how to practically, actively take some of your assets and have them outside the purview of, the United States government. I'm going to give you an example. One quick example. I got fruit trees out there. Okay. So, and we grow other things. Okay. So we can barter with that. We can eat. Okay. With that. I don't have to worry about crossing the regime and having them slap my hand and saying, you can't spend money for a prescribed amount of time. Okay. I don't have to worry about that. And I want to continue to be in that position. So there are many other ways that we're talking about how to do that in the members only section. So just think along those lines, guys, that the world is changing, and it's changing rapidly.